Hey everyone, Home Business King here at homebusinessking.com. Before we begin, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. And if you've already done that, thanks. The reason for the video is there's a lot of talk about Bitcoin mining. It seems to be making a serious comeback. And this video is going to give you a little bit of advice as to whether you should decide on using Bitcoin mining for your home business. Now, first and foremost, I need to make one thing clear. One factor that you should never consider in terms of whether you should Bitcoin mine or not is simply the price of Bitcoin. It's a very volatile item, so regardless as to whether you do everything right in Bitcoin mining, you can still end up losing money if the price of Bitcoin actually goes down. So it's a non-factor. You're going to be taking a risk anyway with Bitcoin mining. So now that that's to the side, there's a couple things you need to consider in terms of Bitcoin mining. Number one, the equipment. One thing you want to do is to avoid all of these YouTube gurus talking about how much money they're making in Bitcoin mining. The reason being is a lot of these gurus, such as Financial Wolf, they're getting their equipment for free. So basically, they have no real investment into the cost of the equipment itself. So don't pay those folks any mind whatsoever. You just have to analyze everything from the very beginning as far as to what you're going to pay. Now, if you're going to get free equipment or have already gotten free equipment, then good for you. But this discussion is mainly for someone that's starting from the ground floor as far as Bitcoin mining is concerned. Now, number one, you have to get the equipment. Most Bitcoin miners run about $2,500 each. That's about a general average. If you're only intending on buying one Bitcoin miner, then you may as well forget about it. You need to buy at least 10 Bitcoin miners just to even consider Bitcoin mining. The reason being is because there's a couple of other factors that you have to put in, and if you're going to be running Bitcoin miners, then the amount of equipment that's necessary in order to run it makes buying a quantity of these Bitcoin miners more worth it. Now, as far as Bitcoin mining is concerned, you're going to first off need a large room to run the miner in other words. You certainly can't run it into an apartment or so forth, at least the major Bitcoin miners. The reason being is because a lot of these $2,500 Bitcoin miners, they require special plugs. So it's not like something you can plug up into a 110 volt outlet. So you want to have a specific room with the special plug. You have to pay for the installation by an expert. You have to factor those costs in. This is also the reason why I say buy multiple Bitcoin miners, because if you're going to already spend money in order to get all these plugs and also have the room, you may as well put more than one. I mean, why go through all the trouble in paying for installation, getting a room just to only run one Bitcoin miner? So, like I said before, first off, you need a quantity of them, at least 10. You're going to need to factor in the cost of the connections in order to plug up all these Bitcoin miners. Don't forget, these miners run very high, so you have to make sure that there is air conditioning in that room itself. So you have to factor that into the cost of electricity. The second thing you need to check out is how much is electricity in your area. Now, for me personally, electricity in my area is pretty high, so I definitely wouldn't be doing any Bitcoin mining. But if you're in an area to where you get cheap electricity, whether it's hydroelectric, solar, wind, or so forth, then that's going to be a really good consideration as far as to deciding on Bitcoin mining. But the amount of electricity and its cost is going to be very important. Okay. Number three, you're going to have a little bit of technical know-how. Okay. This isn't a Ron Popeil rotisserie machine to where you just plug it in, set it, and forget it. No, you need to have the expertise in order to not only install and set up these Bitcoin miners, but to also monitor them, okay? Uh, because you have to monitor, make sure that they are doing what they're doing, which is mining, okay? Now, you don't need to go to MIT in order to run Bitcoin miners, but you need to have some bit of education as far as to running all of this equipment in order to properly mine these Bitcoins, okay? So if you're going to be doing it, hey, crack open a book. Now, this here is the most important part as far as the determining whether you should do any type of Bitcoin mining. So just pay close attention. The biggest thing you need to consider is, are you going to actually stick with it? Okay. This is a very long-term investment. So even with hooking everything up, even with having the know-how, it's going to take a significant amount of time before you recoup your investment. Okay. At least a year or two in order to recoup your investment. And even within a year's time, you may end up having to replace the equipment because as time goes by, mining Bitcoin becomes a lot more harder. So you may need to update that equipment. That's what I was meaning in the very beginning, that the volatility of Bitcoin, as it goes up, it's going to be a lot harder to get, in order to mine these Bitcoins. So you have to look in advance and tell yourself, hey, am I going to be doing this within 2 years? Am I going to be able to stick to it? Because it's going to take quite a long time for you to simply recoup your investment, So these are all the factors you want to consider in terms as far as to whether you wish to do any Bitcoin mining. You have to treat it like any other business, but a lot of people have that misconception to where I just simply plug in a computer and that's it, You're going to have to do some serious work in order to be successful in Bitcoin mining. And even if you're successful, even with cheap power, even if you get a good deal on the equipment, even if you have that, it could still blow up in your face because of the volatility of Bitcoin mining. And in this particular case, if you don't meet any of the criteria that I've stated, then maybe it's just better for you just to purchase Bitcoin directly and see whether it goes up or not, But that's all I got to say as far as Bitcoin mining is concerned. It is up to you as the consumer to make the decision on it. There's a number of things that I haven't mentioned and variables that do also go into Bitcoin mining. I would recommend checking your resources before getting into this business. I just wanted to simply give you some general information as far as Bitcoin mining is concerned. But that's all I got to say for right now. Again, be sure to like and subscribe to the Home Business King channel. As always, peace and soul.